I want us to get into some strategies. One of the big complaints parents have is that when they talk to their teens, yeah, fine, okay, no, it's just a one word response. There's no meat to their response, and parents are freaking out like, I can't get my teen to talk to me about anything. How was school? Fine. How was your test? Fine. Like, so the
Yes.
question now is for parents who are experiencing that, right? How can we get our children to respond with more than one word?
Mhm. That can be very tricky. Some strategies might work if you have more than one teen in your home. You might try some strategies and they work really well for your son. They don't work as well for your daughter. So it's having that toolkit to really be able to pull out some different types of strategies. So I'm going to share a few with you. And, if, one or two don't work, don't give up, try some of the other ones. But really, in the kind of foundation is working to stay connected. So, as much as you both feel like you might need space because you've been living together without a lot of opportunity to like get out and go other places, you want to keep talking. So, maybe find some different times like eating dinners together, maybe just binge watching a show or playing a video game with your teen, taking a walk. I know ever since my kids were small, we took walks with the dog, like whether that was around the neighborhood or maybe at a park. Doing something at the same time allows you to kind of continue that conversation. So if they're like, I don't know, you're still doing an activity, you're still together. So it allows some more time for them to think about what it is that they might share. Because thinking about brain development again, they can't always come up with an answer right away. So I know you shared like, how was school? How was, your practice or whatever? And they're like, I don't know. You might change that up to using a few different words at the beginning. So instead of saying how was, say to them, tell me about. So this is the one strategy that I hear back from parents that is like a game changer. So if instead when they come in, say, how was school, say, tell me about school. Tell me about your test. Tell me about practice. I wouldn't say it all the time because then they'd be like, oh, why are you using that same beginning every time you ask me about something? But what I hear back from parents is like, they talk to me more when I said, tell me about and whatever it was, than they have in the last month altogether. So just using a few different words can help you kind of bridge that gap. Also, if they still are like, oh, I don't know, you might just say something like, I really care about what happened to you today. Like, take a couple minutes and think about what it is that you'd want to share with me. Like, don't let them off the hook. Let them know, like, hey, I want you to share. Take a couple of seconds and think about even one thing that you can share with me. Then they'll see, like, oh, you're not just saying, how was your day? Because we ask each other that all the time and don't necessarily expect an answer, that we really want them to think about it and share with us.
Mhm.
So I think that's a nice place to start. And then a couple other strategies really would be around if you want to have a conversation with them that's a little more in depth, maybe asking permission. So if your teen isn't necessarily like ready for a discussion, you thought they might be, but maybe there's some things in their head, like when would be a good time for us today then to talk about your plans this next weekend, or whatever it is that you want to talk about. That gives them a little bit of control.
Yes, thank you for that. I'm sure parents are making notes of the strategies that you have provided so far and looking forward to having more than a one-word response. Sometimes our children or teens rather they go completely left field regarding our values and all of that, because it's a time of finding their independence, and they might finally realize that you are also filled with flaws, and so they may not want to immediately listen to what you have to say about certain things. So for parents in that kind of situation, and they want to give their opinion about something, but they don't want to come across as condescending, lecturing, judgmental, so that their teen would shut down and say, I don't want to listen to my mom or dad anymore about this. They can't tell me what to do. In that kind of scenario, what can parents do to still share their opinions, especially their moral position, without coming across as a Miss Know It All or Mr. Know It All and follow my lead or else nothing, right? How can
Yeah.
we get our teens to listen to us and we can share from a place of concern that they might consider our perspective as well?
Mhm. That's hard because we want to just tell them and have them kind of act on that.
Yeah.
And the fact that they just typically that's not how we work as human beings makes it very, very challenging. So when something is going wrong and you need to step in as a parent and have a conversation, I think I started talking a little bit about asking permission. So instead of just charging in and starting a discussion around whatever it is that you're concerned about, simply changing the way that you start the conversation can make a world of difference in how your teen then reacts to the information that you want to share. Because ultimately, we want them to hear us and we want them to act on what we're sharing with them. So, a normal part of teen development, which we talked a little bit about already, is that struggle for control. So, the more that we're telling them what to do, the more they're going to be like, oh, I don't know that that's right for me. I want to find my own path. So, we don't want to set it up in that way. So, we don't want to jump into a lecture. We want to ask our teens, like, what would be a good time for them? So, it puts the control in their court, giving them a sense of, okay, maybe they need to think about it. Maybe they don't want to talk right away, or maybe they do. So you might say something like, hey, I want to talk to you about the party this weekend that you want to go to. Can we talk now, or do you want to wait until after dinner? So I'm still asking permission as a parent, but I'm not saying that they can say, hey, we're not going to talk about it at all. But I'm giving them a little bit of control. So I saw quite a difference. My daughter, when I would use that in wanting to talk with her about something, would be like, okay. And she would find a time, like after dinner, I have this going on. How about this time? My son can't have things lingering over him. So he was like, oh no, we need to talk like right now. I don't need to prepare anything. I just want to like get this over with, basically. So you never know how your team might react, but they both appreciated kind of that opportunity to say when it is to talk. So you want to start out with that and know that probably what you're sharing, emotions are going to be high. So you want to prepare yourself. You want to be as calm as possible. So hopefully the time that you're talking, you can find a time versus when it's in a really stressful, like maybe argument or something like that. You want to find a time where you're both calm. You ask permission. They tell you, when it is to talk. That's really the first step. And then you can start the conversation by using some other strategies like empathy. I know it's really hard when all your friends are getting together and, our rules are that we're not getting together indoors yet if we're talking about COVID, or our rules are that, we don't want you going to a gathering that's going to be more than 10 kids. So you're sharing some of your information. And then I think, like you mentioned, your motivations for that. Like, I really care about you and I just worry about, the different things that you might be faced with when you're at a party. Like, can we talk more about that? And how can we come together on what it is that you might want to do? So, how can we come together on going to a party or gathering with friends that maybe, less people? So finding that compromise is really good role modeling and allows your teen to provide some maybe options they were thinking about, and then you can provide some options. So you're not just this far apart, like absolutely can't go, want to go no matter what. Like find what feels comfortable for both of you is really great, like I said, role modeling for the future. As long as you can give up a little bit of that parent control, and ultimately you're getting then what you want, because you're less likely to have your teen like spending the night at a friend's house and then they go to a party and you don't know about it, or you haven't talked through some of the risk, like I was talking about earlier, planning for what might happen when you go to a party.
Yes, I like the way you emphasize asking permission, and it's giving a sense of autonomy to our children to say, yes, I do have some control over this conversation and what is going to happen in the conversation, instead of feeling like I am a 5-year-old kid again with my parents trying to tell me what to do.